We are aiming to realize a world where people can feel safe and at peace. The US, Europe, and Japan all have slogans for reducing traffic accidents with the goal of no deaths or serious injuries. In 2020, we entered the fight against a virus we had never seen before, COVID-19. With COVID-19, towns around the world have been locked down and people are obliged to wear masks to prevent infection. Traffic volume has dropped sharply, and in Europe and Japan, traffic fatalities have also dropped sharply. Meanwhile, despite city lockdowns and reduced traffic, the US's road fatalities have risen sharply to the highest level since 2011. According to the NHTSA's announcement, 94% of traffic accidents are caused by human error. How can we reduce accidents? V2X is the answer. It's a technology where vehicles communicate with each other and with infrastructure. According to the US Department of Transportation, the main requirements for V2X are that exchanges are non-networked. Protocols are interoperable, coexistence in the same channel, and backward compatibility. Devices are omnidirectional with 360 degrees of coverage. Communications operate predominantly within a 300-meter range. Signals are largely unaffected by environmental conditions. V2X is uniquely crafted for certain crash scenarios. It can also be used in other vehicles. Communications have been designed for significant security and privacy protection. With low latency, free from harmful interference, coverage with scalability, high reliability, and stability. In the US, the Federal Communications Commission proposed 5.850 to 5.925 GHz for ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems, in 1999 and announced it in 2003, making a buffer of 5 MHz against unlicensed Wi-Fi under 5.850 GHz. V2X requires 75 MHz for US road safety. This allocation includes critical V2X services such as basic safety messages, vehicle-to-infrastructure messages, collective perception messages, maneuver coordination messages, messages for platooning and CACC, and messages for vulnerable road users, to name a few. These requirements were calculated by multiple independent sources, including SAE and Car-to-Car Communication Consortium. However, the FCC recently proposed reallocating to 45 MHz from the 75 MHz band previously allocated to V2X communications. This would be insufficient for these required services to function. In fact, the New York Connected Vehicle Pilot uses DSRC for 6 channels in the 5.9 GHz band, and 3,000 V2X-equipped vehicles communicate daily with 450 RSUs, roadside units, in downtown New York. The US DOT is validating the data obtained from it. The FCC did not explain any reimbursement method for switching from DSRC to cellular V2X at the moment. For one thing, there is no definition for CV2X, and at 30 MHz, the use is limited to Release 14-based PC5. For 5G NR, which came after Release 16, there is no interoperability with PC5. Furthermore, it cannot be used due to insufficient frequency. CPM, collective perception messages, and MCM, maneuver coordination messages, are very important for safety when moving towards an automated vehicle era. This requires another 40 MHz. The use of CPM allows vehicles to see what they otherwise could not, farther and around obstructions such as curves and buildings. Connected infrastructure, or a connected vehicle, spots non-connected vehicles and/or non-connected VRUs, vulnerable road users such as pedestrians, bicyclists, scooter riders, motorcyclists, and road workers. That information is transmitted to other vehicles whose drivers do not have line of sight to the non-connected objects, allowing the vehicles to react ahead of time, faster than they otherwise could. This advance warning can reduce accident frequency and potentially save lives, even when not all the vehicles involved are connected. MCM allows vehicles to know what other vehicles intend to do ahead of time. With the existing 75 MHz allocation, services using CPM and MCM may be available in the near future, with completion expected by 2022 or 2023, and US deployment is expected by 2024 or 2025. However, these services will be lost once the FCC report and order takes effect. These channel allocations have been used to support a basic set of V2X messages that lay the groundwork for a wide range of applications that are beneficial to the public. They require the entirety of the existing 75 MHz for real-world use. This matrix shows a rough analysis of comments to the FCC from November 10, 2020 to July 7, 2021, after the FCC opened the R&O draft. As this indicates, support V2X with 75 MHz, OOBE out-of-band emission, technologies, and SEP and FRAND are still issues for most of the participants. The CTI of the House repeatedly asked the FCC to consider safety with the DOT because, for the FCC, an agency that has no expertise in transportation safety, to make such a decision over the objections of safety experts is troubling. The FCC needs to reconsider their decision and work with safety experts to ensure we are not infringing upon the bandwidth that we need for V2X communications. The NSC believes the record of the FCC clearly demonstrates the need for at least 75 MHz of spectrum for V2X technologies. Transportation safety experts such as the US DOT, the National Transportation Safety Board, SAE International, and a wide coalition of transportation safety stakeholders have stated that 30 MHz was insufficient to provide the full range of V2X safety services of today and in the near future. The FCC must act jointly with the US DOT to prevent harmful interference from significantly undermining transportation safety in the remaining 30 MHz reserved for V2X communications, and work with the US DOT to identify an additional spectrum for advanced V2X services. Based on comments by March 2020, reply comments by April 2020, and other comments, here is a tentative correlation diagram. The FCC is an independent administrative body, but it follows the mandate put in place by Congress. The FCC is promoting its operations in collaboration with the NTIA before the execution of the administration, but for the first time, the opinions of these two organizations are different. Comments are coming not only from the participants, but also from the U.S. Senate CCST, Committee on Commerce, Science and Transportation, the House CTI, Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, and the NSC, National Safety Council. Despite this, as of the end of August 2021, the FCC has not replied to the numerous comments pointing out the problems with the technologies, etc. In this part, we will briefly explain about OOBE, which is crucial for transportation safety. Previously, the FCC set 5 MHz from 5.850 to 5.855 GHz as a guard band, but proposed 5.850 to 5.895 GHz for Wi-Fi without any guard band. Furthermore, they set 5.925 to 7.125 GHz for Wi-Fi 6 in April 2020. With this proposal, in the worst case, only 10 MHz or so could be used for V2X due to OOBE. In addition, there may be another interference with UNI 5, which details will be determined in the future. With the arrival of the full-scale 5G era, communication technology has rapidly spread to the automobile industry, triggered by competition for the development of connected cars. Beginning in 2020, countries are making a series of crucial decisions, such as FTC, the Federal Trade Commission versus Qualcomm, and Nokia versus Daimler. Standard essential patents are basic patents that are indispensable for manufacturing products that comply with standards, and are also a complex field in which IP law, antitrust law, standardization bodies, etc. are intertwined. The rights holder is required to declare that the disclosure obligation and rights of the patent are licensed under the FRAN Declaration, and the license to a specific company is required. It has been a trend for the past 10 years that injunctions are not allowed. FRAN means fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory treatment of essential patents in standardization activities. Basic points. Before establishing the standard, the standardization body inquires the members, do you have your own essential patents for the standards to be established? And, if the member owns an essential patent related to the standard to be established, the member must submit the details of the target patent and the IPR declaration with one of the following options selected to the standardization body. Option 1 can be used freely and free of charge. Option 2, permission under FRAN conditions. Option 3, not licensed or licensed under non-FRAN terms. Continental claims that they have been actually suffering many patent refusals from cellular patent holders. AT&T is also pointing out important things in their comment. Following this movement, on July 2021, a new cross-industry alliance suddenly appears on a comment made to the FCC. They clearly explain, it is already the case today that some cellular SEP owners refuse to license their patents on FRAN terms to some market participants. Without adjustment, the Commission's new rules only exacerbate the problem by effectively mandating the use of cellular-based V2X technologies in the automotive environment. With so many issues to be solved, the FCC has issued 2 public notices on August 6, 2021. First, V2X waiver is a notification permitting pilot operation of V2X roadside aircraft at 30 MHz above 5.9 GHz. Second is ITS filing. Before issuing the first RNO, the FCC decided not to accept applications for a new V2X operation, but announced that it would relax the upper 30 MHz part and accept it from August 6, 2021. Even though the FCC issued public notice on August 6, 2021, so many unsolved points still remain unchanged. Technologies, patent issue, reimbursement, the definition of V2X, and available frequencies. There are serious complaints made by participants outside of the automotive industry, such as local governments related to 9/11, agricultural equipment manufacturers, etc. Let's briefly touch on the progress of 2 new technologies. NGV Next Generation V2X, which is compatible with DSRC and has a large information area, has reached a basic agreement in October 2020 in preparation for the final decision in September 2022. On the other hand, Release 17 of 3GPP, which is a 5G NR standard, has been delayed due to consideration of the specification freeze. This also affects the launch of V2X products. Of course, SAE J3161/1, which is based on Release 14 for Basic Safety Message, has not been decided yet as of the end of August 2021 due to SEP and FRAND problems and unsolved technical issues. Under these situations, challenges from the industry to the FCC 5.9 GHz reallocation have started on June 2, 2021. ITSA and AASHTO filed an invalidation proceeding with the FCC's 5.9 GHz reassignment in the DC court on June 2nd. And the opening briefing was held on August 13th, also integrating Ardent's objections to the FCC. The main points are the FCC's decision exceeded T21, the Transportation Equity Act for the 21st century. Whether it is contrary to APA, Administrative Procedure Act, and the reallocation unlawfully revokes or modifies incumbent licenses. Whether the entire order violates Article 303 Telecommunications Law and is inconsistent with the law. Here is the amicus brief supporting ITSA, AASHTO, and Ardent's legal appeal filed on August 20th by the American Highway Users Alliance, the American Traffic Safety Services Association, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and the National Safety Council. Additionally, the intervenor brief filed on August 20th by Continental also supports V2X supporters' appeals. These filings will help the court understand the safety equities involved in this case. As explained, 2 briefs were filed in August 20th, 2021. The brief from the FCC is expected to finish within this year. After that, the court will seek an oral argument. We estimate it will be realized by the first quarter to second quarter of 2022 next year. The court is under no specific time constraints in reaching a decision, but it would be reasonable to expect an opinion in the spring of 2022. It may take 1 to 2 years for the court to make a final judgment, but the exact time frame is unclear. Next is the situation in Europe. With the slogan, Vision Zero, no deaths and serious injuries on European roads, along with the influence of the COVID-19 lockdowns, the number of traffic fatalities in 2020 decreased drastically. This is in alignment with the goals of the member states regarding safety and contributing to the environment. EC set up the ITS directive in 2010 and has been making efforts to revise it to adjust to the situation, regulation, and technologies of the present and the future. The revision is said to be completed by the end of 2021. The aim of the directive is to speed up and better coordinate ITS deployment in order to improve the functioning of road transport and its interfaces with other transport modes. This in turn is to reduce the air polluting and CO2 emissions from road transport, relieve congestion, and improve road safety. In the Sustainable and Smart Mobility Strategy, put forward on December 9, 2020, the Commission confirmed the indicative timing the next year for a legislative initiative based on an impact assessment. To accelerate this movement, the EC will make full use of the C-Roads platform as the coordination mechanism for cooperative ITS deployment at an operational level and ask the member states to join. They are also asking that industry players should use C-Roads for validation. Following the ITS directive, key players, including member states in Europe, have been deploying infrastructures. The Amsterdam Group is a strategic alliance of committed key stakeholders with the objective to facilitate joint deployment of cooperative ITS in Europe. It includes the umbrella organizations of CEDAR, ASICAP, Polis, and C2CCC with 225 members. Furthermore, C2CCC and C-Roads signed as MOU for ITS deployment in Pan-Europe in 2017. C-Roads explained the following points in a webinar held on June 4, 2021. C-Roads has been introducing existing communication technology, both DSRC and cellular. At present, base stations are deployed on 100,000 kilometers of European highways with 500,000 onboard units. V2X vehicles are increasing at 1,000 units per day. The EC will invest their budget in C-Roads and CCAM to promote practical application. Next is ASICAP. ASICAP is the European Association of Operators of Toll Road Infrastructures, whose members' networks today span more than 86,000 kilometers of motorways, bridges, and tunnels across 20 member countries. ASICAP's purpose is to defend and develop the system of motorways and road infrastructures in Europe, applying tolls as a means to ensure the financing of their construction, maintenance, and operation. ASICAP believes the ITS Directive revision could and should support EU legislative framework to force interoperability between technologies. ASICAP is convinced of the decarbonization potential of CITS and of the positive impact on the reduction of external costs of road transport. CITS is perceived by everyone as a key aspect of automated vehicle development and deployment. Patents covering 5G technology may cause problems, such as increasing costs for the realization of safety and environmental improvements CITS contributes. Next is the Conference of European Directors of Roads. CEDAR has 29 member states and is collaborating with not only Europe, but also AASHTO in the US and so on. 90 members of cities are in Polis, Cities and Regions for Transport Innovation. Polis is the leading network of European cities and regions, working together to develop innovative technologies and policies for local transport. Now, after introducing the key players, we will introduce some of the priorities and challenges in the revision of the ITS Directive. Here are the priorities of the ITS Directive: confirmation of suitable technology, alignment of the ITS Directive with other relevant legislation, collaboration with ASEA members, and updated e-call regulation, among others. The ITS Directive webinar also clarified the method of impact assessment. Specifically, the assumptions regarding the use of the technology that provides the service direct and cellular. The EC revealed that CITS envisions a hybrid approach, but does not consider the costs associated with cellular networks. This is due to the fact that the ITS Directive revision is not assumed to be the driving force behind cellular network 5G deployment, nor the purchase of actual smartphones. And to advance CITS in Europe, there are several issues to be examined and solved, such as expanding roadside units all over Europe, the frameworks needed to address lack of interoperability, and adding and supporting the spectrum used to keep the technology neutral, and so on. In Europe, V2X is listed into the EURONCAP, New Car Assessment Program for Active Safety Roadmap for 2025. The focus of the roadmap is on the use of advanced technology to deliver improved passenger car safety, but also on how it might assist other road users. For primary safety, driver monitoring is being proposed. In addition to AES, Autonomous Emergency Steering, and AEB, Autonomous Emergency Braking, V2X communication offers great potential for active safety, but agreement is first needed on the technology employed. V2X communication, which involves vehicles exchanging data with each other and the infrastructure, has the potential to improve traffic safety and increase the efficiency of transport. As long as there's uncertainty about the V2X standard and the timing, car makers do not seem to prioritize V2X safety functions for their European market, so we are expecting it to improve. In the US, Europe, and Japan, DSRC is deployed as the only mature and proven technology for direct V2X communication because DSRC technology was developed specifically to satisfy transportation safety purposes by experts around the world. Furthermore, as we explained the new technologies previously, NGV or DSRC Plus and 5G NR for V2X will be validated from now on. Through collaboration, DSRC technologies have already been validated for real-world use and deployed in Japan, the US, and Europe. Approximately 9,200 RSUs or roadside units were to be installed in the US by the US DOT and State Departments of Transportation as of July 2020, and 12,400 units in total were supposed to be implemented, but the FCC had frozen the licensing to ITS RSU in mid-2020. However, despite this complicated situation, ITSA and AASHTO filed with the DC Court on June 2, 2021, and the FCC's made a public notice on August 6, 2021, making the current and future situation unclear. Meanwhile, the number of roadside units and infrastructure are progressing steadily in each region of Europe and Japan. ITS is contributing to several SDGs. So far, we have introduced the topics you see here. Through the continued expansion of deployed DSRC V2X technologies in Japan, Europe, and the US, as well as continued allocation of already allocated dedicated V2X spectrum, our transportation systems will become safer and smarter while using our transportation resources more efficiently. Despite the need to closely monitor the situation caused by the FCC in the US, established V2X technology continues to contribute to the world's ultimate safety and environmental improvement goals.